Very recently, we got news on the upcoming Guilty Gear anime called Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers. Aside from the release window of 2025, the biggest announcement was that the show will be using similar techniques to the animation style shown in the recent Guilty Gear games, being 3D models that are shaded and rigged in such a way that they try to convince you that they're actually 2D. This shouldn't have been a massive surprise to anyone inside of the Guilty Gear community, but I'm sure that many casual fans of these games and of anime in general were probably expecting something more traditional. However, from looking at Guilty Gear's previous bouts with stories, what ArcSys has shown is possible within the 3D space, as well as the current landscape of anime, I could see the Strive anime being somewhat of a tipping point for the medium. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the Strive anime could change everything. So, how about we start with the part which I'm much more familiar with, Guilty Gear. More specifically, Guilty Gear Strive. For any non-fighting game players in the audience today, Guilty Gear Strive is the newest entry in the Guilty Gear franchise. The game visually builds off of the techniques and tools Arc System Works pioneered in their previous entry, being Guilty Gear Xrd. While the point of Xrd was to try and trick your brain into thinking that you're looking at a 2D image, when in reality it's a 3D model, Strive attempted to bring more of the benefits of 3D to the game while still keeping the general 2D aesthetic. And let me just say this now, both of these games look absolutely beautiful in motion. If you want to see some absolute masterclass of 3D animation, look at the later Guilty Gear Xrd instant kills, and you will be amazed at what artists could create with these things. Their visual direction in Xrd was so good that it led ArcSys to securing deals with Psy Games and Bandai in order to make Grand Blue Fantasy and Dragon Ball FighterZ, both of which build upon the visual styles of Xrd in their own way, causing them to look distinct but visually brilliant. This has led to Arc System Works putting themselves on the map and transforming Guilty Gear from a relatively niche fighting game franchise to one of the biggest in the world, with Guilty Gear Strive being a contender in the fighting game community for one of the new Big 3 games after the recent decline of NetherRealm Studios. No flame, but those numbers are... they're looking rough. Guilty Gear also has a story. Like a massive story. Like an absolutely huge story. The universe is vast and deep. And then Strive came along. When Guilty Gear Strive was announced, the developers were heavily pushing the story mode as one of its selling features. Their pitch was basically you get a bullshit-blazing fighting game, as well as a full anime and a rock album. What's not to love? So, how is that anime part then? Well, I don't want to say that Guilty Gear Strive has a bad story. But I will say that it has a lot of flaws. One of its biggest flaws is the animation, unfortunately. I don't know if they just ran out of budget or time or whatever, but the animation across the Strive story is stiff. Like, really stiff. Everything feels like it's missing a couple of frames, or the models are just being told to go from one pose to another, which, if you've seen how the rest of the game looks, makes it feel really, really off. This extends to the action scenes as well. It makes sense that everything is a bit rough since they couldn't exactly give us high fidelity animation over 5 hours of story, but that doesn't make it good. But what if they didn't have to spread the budget out? What if they had the entire budget of the game and they could just spend it all on the story side and didn't have to make a fighting game alongside it? Well, Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers is going to be a continuation from the story of Guilty Gear Strive. The summary that we've gotten so far is that Sol and Sin are headed to Kai and Dizzy's wedding before it is unfortunately crashed by an unknown girl by the name of Unica. I think that's how you pronounce her name. The only thing we know about her is that she absolutely hates gears. Like, despises them. With that setup and the announcement trailer, there's not a whole lot to go off of plot-wise. But there's another part of the anime that I really want to focus on. You could say that it's kind of important. Like, it's potentially a big part of it. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's the animation. Like I said earlier, Jewel Rulers is going to be a fully 3D anime, or as anime fans call it, CGI, using techniques that are similar to the ones used in Xrd and Strive. Now, CGI in anime is nothing new. I remember when I was younger, there was a fully CGI anime called Berserk 2016, and it was something. But it's not uncommon for CGI to pop up in anime from time to time. Some anime use it sparingly in order to emphasize different effects and add depth to scenes. Some use CGI for every part of the anime and try to replicate the style of 2D animation while still obviously being 3D. Some just throw it in there for reasons. I love Chainsaw Man. I think the anime is a really good adaptation, but that first fight is... it's rough. But until recently, most CGI anime tends to try and do their own thing and craft their own style, instead of using it as a substitute for 2D. This comes with benefits and limitations. The main problem is that a model is always perfect, whereas a 2D drawing tends to have imperfections between the different frames. Generally, not enough for you to notice, but pause on some specific frames and you'll get some weird looking results. Try to go off model on a 3D character though, and yeah, no, it's not that easy. If CGI isn't done right, it can look stiff and rigid. Anime has this natural kind of flow to it, where the characters can morph and change to fit the actions and the expressions that they're showing. Not like, literally, they don't turn into double when their crush confesses to them, but going off of model for an anime is pretty common. That's not to say that CGI hasn't been done right in the space, especially recently. Shows like Beastars, Trigun Stampede, and Girls Band Cry have shown that you can make CGI look like a traditional anime with the correct techniques, if not look a little bit better than some animes. And looking at these animes, I can't help but think that maybe somehow they borrowed some of these teachings from Arc System Works when they made Xrd. You gotta remember that before 2014, most CGI anime stuff wasn't really anime. It was more CGI. I'm talking like Advent Children kind of stuff. Yeah, you can say it's an anime, but it's more just a 3D movie. But a few years after Xrd released, animation companies began to dabble more into blending CGI and 2D animation. Oh well, they got better at it would probably be the best way to put it. One of the biggest things that Arxis did with Xrd though was find the ability to go off model, or fake imperfections. If you don't know, the Xrd and Strive models are extremely in-depth. Like, really, really, really in-depth. These models have so much rigging and so many different things you can do with them. You can basically turn the characters into looking like they're something completely different to what they are, and it's fucking insane. This technique has seemingly been adopted by newer CGI animes, allowing their characters to morph and shift by giving them more complex rigs and more in-depth animations because of it. I think this is a great change for the general medium. I do not think that CGI is going to completely replace 2D anime. Far from it. I think that'd be ridiculous. But it's still a style and artistic choice that looks really good with the correct hand and in the correct context. It would be kind of silly if it turns out that Guilty Gear Strive Jewel Rulers isn't an action anime, but Arxis have shown that they know how to make action in anime work. Just look at these fucking supers again. So I'm sure they'll be giving a lot of tips and helps to the animation studio in order to make it look as good as possible. I think we're seeing the end of the cycle though. Xrd inspired other companies to try and use CGI in more animated ways, and because several shows have proven that it is possible, we're now getting a fully CGI Guilty Gear anime. The hope is that, well, A, it's good, but B, it's so good that it proves to other animators that it's not an inevitability that CGI will mess up your anime. You can make it work. Maybe we'll see a boom in the CGI animes because of it. Hell, Arxis is working with a generally CGI anime studio who's put out some good stuff. A lot of Banji on the list. So maybe we'll see more interesting, in-depth, and unique uses of CGI in anime from this point. I think that if the Strive anime does well and looks really good, it could genuinely change everything. Or maybe we'll just get to see Biken in the anime. Who knows? Either way, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I need my analytics to go up. Funny number means that I can eat. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon. You can support me from as low as £1 a month. I'm going to try and upload some more stuff on it. I've been kind of lacking recently, but I've got a couple of ideas that I want to put up on there. So make sure that you're following it so that you can see it when it goes live. You also get your name read out alongside these beautiful people at the end of every video. As always, a very special thanks to 64 MHz, Almost That Time, Axolotl Syndicate, Savantis de Leon, Daniel Wiederert, Edison Lottery, Vexo, Games.png, Haywire Novalite, I Am Naruto, It's Riley, Knife and Spoon, Criticat, MP04, Mr. Clen, Nubus, Ray W, Sergeant Cubby, Super, Forcon, Tom Tanks, Velvet Puppy, and Zarndatsu for being Tier 2 patron supporters. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next week.